You feel like you've been on your best behaviour all day. Perhaps you skipped breakfast, you had a light lunch, and you sailed through the afternoon feeling totally in control. But then nighttime hits and it almost feels like a switch has shifted in your brain. All of a sudden you're in the kitchen and you literally can't stop eating. One snack turns into another, and before you know it, you're surrounded by wrappers wondering how you got there. If you're tired of sabotaging your progress every single evening, then stick with me because this video is for you. I'm going to give you a clear, actionable plan to help you get your evenings back. And I want you to know that this has absolutely nothing to do with willpower, and it's not a personal failure. Actually, this kind of pattern is very common, and it's driven by some very powerful biological and psychological reasons. And I'm going to explain in this video exactly why that happens. And then I'm going to give you a step-by-step process that you can use to break that cycle for good. So I'm going to explain a little bit about why you might feel like you're being perfect all day, but then you just go totally off the rails at night. So there are biological reasons for this, and this is huge, is the fact that people often restrict their food a lot during the day. So if you've been severely cutting calories or maybe even cutting out food groups, by the time you get to the end of the day, your body and brain actually feel really deprived. By the end of the day, often you are actually physically hungry, and what your brain does, it sends out these powerful cravings for high sugar, high fat, high density food, so it can get that quick fix of energy, especially if you're feeling particularly drained or tired. And then another reason is to do with your emotions. So evenings are often that time when you finally stop and breathe. Maybe you've had a particularly stressful day at work, or with just lots of things going on in the day, things feel chaotic and maybe overwhelming. You get to the end of the day, the distractions are gone, and all those feelings, the boredom, the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm, they come to the forefront of our minds. And for many of us, food has become that go-to coping mechanism. It's a source of comfort. It can feel like a really great way to numb out. And this creates a very powerful habit loop, so that a bad emotion triggers this urge to eat or binge, but then that's more often than not followed by guilt and shame because you've overeaten. So all of this together creates this very vicious cycle that we get very stuck into, where you restrict all day, you think, I'm going to be good today, and then by the time you get to the evening, those cravings are just totally overwhelming. That's the combination of actual physical hunger, the emotions, and also naturally that we have more hunger hormones at the end of the day. Then you give in to that binge, you have that sort of immediate sense of relief, but then you feel so much worse, the guilt, the shame, and you vow that you're going to be better tomorrow. And so there you're stuck in that endless cycle where you're constantly trying to be good, and then you end up overeating and binging at night. And let me know in the comments if that feels or sounds familiar to you. So I'm going to give you some practical steps now to help you feel much more in charge at the end of the day. The very first step is to make sure that you're front loading your day with protein. If you skip breakfast regularly, or you have a very light breakfast and then a very light lunch, that's one of the biggest predictor for overeating at night. So your first mission or your first step is to make sure that you have a protein-packed breakfast every morning. So something like Greek yogurt or a protein smoothie, or even peanut butter on toast or ricotta on toast. Protein is great for satiety, so that sense of positive fullness, but also to help stabilize your blood sugar levels and help get you going at the beginning of the day. Then I want you to follow up by eating regularly every 3 to 4 hours a meal or snack, so that you're making sure that you are getting enough calories earlier in the day. The second step is actually also to front load your pleasure. So if the only fun food you're having is at the end of the day when you have that big binge, then actually you're creating this habit where that's what you're desiring at the end of the day. You've almost maybe like created this habit where you have this day at work, maybe stressful day, and then you come home and you soothe or relieve with a chocolate bar or several chocolate bars. What I want you to do is to start sprinkling moments of joy or pleasure earlier in the day, and it doesn't necessarily have to be food related. So take a bit of a break at work, a 15-minute walk outside if the weather is nice, if the sun's shining, or listen to a funny podcast, or watch something funny, or listen to your favorite album while you're working. And if you know that you're always after a particular chocolate bar, schedule it with lunch. So have it alongside lunch, or have some chocolate chips sprinkled over your morning oats so that you're not building up this kind of desire to have something at the end of the day. So if you create these non-food pleasures during the day, then it stops feeling like your evening is the only chance for that pleasure or reward. The third step is to have some sort of pattern interrupt in the evening. Habits are quite simple. There's a cue, then you do something, and then there's a reward. So, for example, you get home, you're stressed, that's the cue. You do something, you overeat, and then the immediate reward is that sense of relief or pleasure or satisfaction. But then unfortunately, that turns into the guilt and shame. So to break this pattern, you need a new routine. What you want to do is consciously design some sort of like calming routine in the evening. So if you know that you're genuinely stressed or bored or something at the end of the day, create a new routine where you are addressing that stress or that boredom. So maybe you come home, you do some yoga stretches, or you have a warm bath, or you go for a 15-minute walk around the block, or you attend an evening class, like some sort of movement class, like Pilates. Maybe you want to read, do a puzzle, do some Sudoku. The key is that you want to get into a new routine so that you're breaking the old habits and you've got a different way that signals to your brain that the day is over. Step number 4 is something that I call, with my clients, mindful binging. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, but one of the issues with binging is that if you are constantly telling yourself that you are bad or naughty or out of control when you are eating certain foods, then you've got that kind of negative self-talk going on. So let's say you get to an evening and you do really fancy a chocolate bar or a slice of cake or whatever it is, then the idea is that you eat it in a planned and mindful way. So rather than constantly telling yourself, I'm naughty for doing this, what you can do is you can sit down. Let's imagine that it is a chocolate bar. You would eat it off some crockery, so put it onto a plate, ideally break it up into small pieces, and then you would sit down at a table or somewhere and you would eat it really mindfully. So the idea is to have no distractions. So switch off social media, switch off the TV. And I want you to savor that piece of chocolate and eat it really slowly in a super mindful way. By sitting down and planning it and sort of allowing yourself to have it, it strips away some of that secrecy and shame. So this kind of teaches your brain that you can actually enjoy these foods in a calm way where you are in charge. You're making a mindful choice to eat it, and it makes those foods less exciting and binge-worthy. The 5th tip is to learn to surf the urge. So when a craving hits, it can feel a bit like a tidal wave. And the goal is to learn how to surf that wave. Try this out. So when an urge hits, you're not telling yourself no. What you say to yourself is, I'm going to wait. Now, I recommend starting with a small amount of time, but eventually you want to be able to wait 15 minutes. So you tell yourself, not right now, and then you set the timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, you do something else. Now, it can literally be anything. You could wash the dishes, fold some laundry, but you could do something a bit more fun. You could dance around the living room, you could go and read a book, you could do a puzzle, you could watch some funny videos on Instagram. And what a lot of people find is that that intensity of the urge fades over those 15 minutes. And if the urge is still there after the 15 minutes, then revert back to my previous point where you sit down and you do that mindful binging. It's a planned, mindful choice to actually eat the chocolate, and you do it in a really mindful way and savor it. My final step is to replace guilt with curiosity. Now, slips are going to happen. You are only human. You may put into place everything that I've taught you, but then you still end up having one of those evening binges. The absolute worst thing you can do is beat yourself up. So what I recommend here is, rather than feel guilt and shame, is to switch that mindset and look at it with curiosity. So you ask yourself, what happened? Why did I end up having this binge? Was it because I didn't eat enough during the day? Was I really hungry? Was I starving? Did I have a super stressful day? Was I bored? Did I have a fight with someone? So you're really using that curiosity, almost like a detective, in a calm, objective way, and looking back on the event and asking yourself, why did it happen? And crucially, then you are asking yourself, what can I learn from this? So it may be that you realize, oh, I need to take more snacks to work, or I need to implement a more calming routine in the evening, or I need to be having breakfast. Curiosity 100% is how we grow and how we learn from these experiences. So quick check-in here if you're finding this video helpful. Love it if you would like this video and subscribe to my channel. I share regular videos with very practical evidence-based tips for helping you feel more in charge around food and stop binging. Now, I've shared 6 strategies here today, and hopefully by implementing these strategies, you're going to feel a lot more in charge around food, especially in the evening. But if you're finding that these events are seriously distressing, or you feel like you might have binge eating disorder, then it might be time to seek professional help. You can work with a therapist, a dietitian, or someone like me, a binge eating recovery coach. If you want to find out more about working with me, you can just hop over to Instagram and message me the word balance, and we can chat about how that might look for you. So I hope you found these steps helpful. And if you really only take one step away, then I highly recommend making sure that you front load your day, aiming to eat more food at the beginning of the day, breakfast and lunch, protein and fiber to keep you full and well satiated throughout the day, so that you're not getting to the end of the day feeling totally starving. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and check out these videos next for more tips around food freedom and stopping binging and feeling more in charge around food. Bye for now.